Hi, I'm Marcel James. Today I'm going to show you my 10-step mastering process. In the last couple videos, I talked about the history of how I put together my mastering chain, and I also talked about 9 things that I avoid when mastering. Today I'm going to talk about my entire process and the things that I do use. First, I want to show you the track that I'm demoing today, or mastering today, which is a song called Dumb by JX Rose. It's a really nicely produced pop track. I like it a lot. I want to show you the mix and then the master.
I wish I never wasted my time. I wish that you were out of my mind. I wish I could have called you mine. I wish you would finally fucking decide. I wish we could have ended this better. I wish I could have gotten some closure. Don't ever know what I'm doing here.
So as you can hear, it's not only louder, but we're trying to make it sound better. And what I'm going to do is turn down the master now so they're a little more level adjusted, and listen again now to the mix.
I wish I never wasted my time. I wish that you were out of my mind. I wish I could have called you mine. I wish you would finally fucking decide. I wish we could have ended this better. I wish I could have gotten some closure. Don't ever know what I'm doing here. I wish that I.
So it's not just good enough to make it louder, it actually has to be better even when level matched. And that's the point that I'm trying to show you there. So how do we get there? Now, the first of the 10-step process is to do my DAW settings. And this includes maxing out the buffer settings. I don't care about latency in this case because the song records when the song records, and I hear it when I hear it. I'm not tracking anything. So I max out the buffer so it's doing as little as possible. As far as processing goes. I also turn off things like software monitoring and plug-in delay compensation. Don't need those functions here, and I don't want them on. I found from doing audio tests that turning all these things off and maxing out the buffer give me a slightly more open sound, and that's what I'm looking for. The other thing that I do with my DAW settings is actually automation. And in this case, I automated down the choruses a dB so that the compressor and limiter don't have to do as much. If I recall a new mix, I just leave the automation up. I don't delete those, and I just bring in the new mix so there's less work to do for recalls. Also, if I'm going to fade out at the end, I do it here as well so it's consistent every time I might bounce a track. So these are the DAW settings, and that is step 1. Step 2 would be any plugins that I would use. In this case, I have a couple ozone plugins. Now, I try to avoid stereo imaging plugins, but these are frequency specific, so I can do them just around the energy where I need to add a little excitement. So I'll turn those off and on for you now.
I wish I never wasted my time. I wish that you were out of my mind. I wish I could have called you mine. I wish you would finally fucking decide. I wish we could have ended this better. I wish I could have gotten some closure. Don't ever know what.
So as you can hear, they're working together to sort of bring out that mid-energy of the track, bring out the vocal a little more. It's a pop track, so I want it to be just a little exciting. And as opposed to analog tools, this is a really good use of some digital processing at the very beginning using these plugins. So that is step 2. Step 3 is the AFX EQs. And I leave all these things unlinked. And in this case, I've got the Lang PEQ2, and I also have the 4K Black, which is an SSL style EQ. I really like the sound of these. I'm going to show you with and without the EQs. It's very subtle, but it's just a little bit of careful shifting. And I also like how subtle they are because they're not heavy-handed as a lot of plugin EQs can get at times. You heard those plugins, they were more dramatic, even with some little bit of settings. I want these to be very subtle, and that's why I use these AFX EQs. So here you go.
I wish I never wasted my time. I wish that you were out of my mind. I wish I could have called you mine. I wish you would finally can decide. I wish we could have ended this better. I wish I could have gotten some closure. Don't ever know what I'm.
So they retain the image of the sound, the punch of the sound, and everything is just shifted in a nice little way. You'll hear me use that word shifting because I'm trying to move things up, down, and around to create a nice big image and make space for things. And I don't do them all with one tool. That's why there's 10 steps. So step number 4 is the DA conversion. Now I'm using the Analog Goliath HD and the 10MX. These utilize inside the Goliath HD the new ESS chips, which sound really good. They have very low harmonic distortion. There's a lot of DA channels. I use the D sub outs, and I can use them for monitoring. I use them for transferring. In this instance, as step 4, it's the DA conversion to go to my analog chain. Also has really high quality headphone outputs, and I constantly check masters both on headphones and the speakers, and then export them to the iPhone, listen to the earbuds, listen in the car. I like to get a good idea for what the client's going to hear at the end of that whole process. So the DA conversion is step 4. Now we go into the analog chain. The first in the analog chain is the Summit DCL 200. It's a compressor that doesn't get talked about a lot, but it was very popular in decades past. It's a classic compressor for 2-channel material because it's got the tube stage on the output, but not controlling the compression itself. And that allows the compressor to be very fast, yet have a nice warm sound. So I love the DCL, and that is step 5. Step 6 are the BAE 10DC compressors. I use those for line amplification mostly. I also like that they have a link function. So when I link things, I can tighten up the center a little bit more. And then when I unlink them, like I did in this track, things are very open. Step number 7 is the Sontec mastering EQ. Now I've got the tube stage with the Summit. I've got transformer on the outputs of the 10DCs, and the Sontec is solid state and has a great big sound with lots of headroom. And I like that just before my A to D because I can crank up the outputs on those BAEs, and there's no distortion in the Sontec, and I've still lots of headroom to sort of use mastering EQ. So it's great at the end of that chain, and it sort of completes the image that I'm looking for. So I want to show you now off and on that whole analog chain with the DA conversion and that A to D conversion, which we'll get to in a second. So this is the track with the whole chain, and I'll turn it off.
I wish I never wasted my time. I wish that you were out of my mind. I wish I could have called you mine. I wish you would finally decide. I wish we could have ended this better. I wish I could have gotten some closure.
Now you can see I'm getting a lot of gain from that analog chain. So you go in low and you come out hot, and it works really, really well. Now I want to show you how when I adjust that volume, what the analog chain's actually doing with the levels adjusted.
I wish I never wasted my time. I wish that you were out of my mind. I wish I could have called you mine. I wish you would finally decide. I wish we could have ended this better. I wish I could have gotten some closure. Don't ever know what I'm doing here.
So again, not just louder, but actually sounds better, even when you level adjust it. So that's very important. Don't let yourself get tricked by things that just because they're a little bit louder when you put them on there. You have to adjust those levels to make sure it's actually bringing you forward. Step number 8, and I'm going to skip to a loud section of the song, is the actual A to D conversion of that Goliath HD clocked by 10MX. And I'll skip over here to the meters, and the reason this is such an important step is because I'm hitting it so hot coming in, and I'm still getting a natural sound.
Dum, dum, da, 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 dum. Dum, da, 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 dum. I'm so dum, dum, da, 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 dum. Dum, da, 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 dum. I'm so dum, dum, da, 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 dum. Dum, da, 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 dum. I'm so dum.
I wanted you to get a taste of that chorus as well because it's a really catchy song. But I'm hitting that A to D just hot enough to get into clipping to about a dB or so on the hottest clips. And that sort of shaves it off in a very acoustically pleasing way. And it allows me to not have to limit as much and do as much loudness stuff at the end. I'm using the A to D as part of that process. And that's why it's step 8. Step 9 is again another chain of AFX. And in this case, I'm using the Giraffe Gyrotech 10. I'm turned down the input, turned up the output, and that saturates the output. And I'm going to link it so that I can bypass it for you. Sorry, I meant to link it, not detach it. So let's link it here. And I'm going to show it to you on and off so you can see how it fills in the bottom part of the frequency, because we excited those mids early in the process and with that analog chain. Now I want to show you how we get some excitement and energy in the lower half of the spectrum. So listen again.
Dum, dum, da, 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 dum. Dum, da, 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 dum. I'm so dum, dum, da, 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 dum. Dum, da, 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 dum. I'm so dum, dum, da, 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 dum. Dum, da, 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 dum.
When I turned it back on, I started to get goosebumps just because it's such a warm energy in that lower part of the frequency. So I really love the trick that does, and that's why it is step 9. Step 10, I encourage you to go back and watch those 9 things I avoid when mastering, because I'm using the Waves L2 hardware. And in that previous video, I shoot out the plug-in version, and it gives you a really good idea of why I use a hardware limiter at the end of this chain. I want to retain the whole sound of everything I'm showing you, and the best way I've found to do that is to use the dedicated hardware limiter. And so go back and listen to it, because I shoot out the plug-in and I want you to hear the difference. But for now, I'll just turn it off and on and show you what it's doing. So here it's on right now. We'll turn it off.
I wish I never wasted my time. I wish that you were out of my mind. I wish I could have called you mine. I wish you would finally fucking decide.
I really love that limiter because it just doesn't destroy all the work that I've done and just sort of pancake it at the very end. And that means that the very last step is still hardware. And then I go in digital and then print that track, and that's it. The only time I use exporting is if I have to change the format. But that first master, the 24-bit version that I capture, is the one that I deliver to clients. If you would like to have me master a song for you, please go to marceljamesmastering.com, click on that contact tab and fill that out. You can even just send me the link in a message or just ask a question, and I'll get back to you right away. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.